Okay, hello friends. I have never gone live on YouTube before, and we're going to try and build as much of this landing page as we possibly can in the next hour. So I am launching a course in the new year, if you didn't know. It's called Fast Forward Freelance. It is everything that you need to know in your first year of freelancing, and I'm really excited about it. I am super just stoked to share everything that I've learned about freelancing over the last 3 years. I've been working as an independent designer and Webflow developer since 2020. And I had a really hard time at first, but things have gotten progressively easier as time has gone on. So I really have been excited to put this together to share all of that knowledge because I love freelancing. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. And I know that this structure of work can be really, really powerful for a lot of people, but it's really intimidating to jump into it. So I'm going to try and build this landing page as much as possible in the next hour in Webflow so that hopefully I can have this live by the end of the week. So the way that I'm building this is in Webflow. I'm a web designer and Webflow developer. I am usually starting from the mast template that Corey Moen and Max Lind have created as part of No Code Supply Co. This is how I've been starting all of my builds recently, and I really, really love it. It's I've probably built like 12 sites so far this year using Mast. And I really, really enjoy it. So the first thing that I do in any build is I'm going to set up my styles page. But before that, I need to upload my fonts because I just bought them from Klim. The design is using Tiempo's headline and Sone for body copy. And I just purchased the typefaces, so I'm going to add them here. Awesome. And I am hanging out solo here. So I really hope that a couple people join from Twitter, but if not, I'm happy to jam on my own. That's totally fine. Let's see. Because this is my first stream, I have never set up music or any of that fun stuff. So um, we're listening to the sweet sound of my voice instead, which is okay. So what am I trying to do here? Downloads? Nope. I haven't actually downloaded the fonts, so that's really helpful. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to upload all of these. And I think I've got everything that I need. Perfect. Okay. All right, let's jump back into the designer. Hannah Spencer. Oh, intro. Hello from Twitter. Yay. Hi, Dro. Hi, Spencer. Or Hannah, sorry. It's going well. I'm really stoked to start this new build. I've wanted to do a build live stream for a really long time, but almost all of my work is client work. So it's not typically something that I do because I obviously don't want to share client work before it is live. This is a very, very messy Figma file. We are not going to judge me based on this. So what I'm going to do first is set up all my variables within Webflow. So Webflow just launched all of their new variables, and Mast has, so I'm just going to call this beige. Mast has a whole bunch of things already set up, but I need to add in the new things that I'm doing. So I'm going to add a new variable for each of my colors. This build is Joe, NDAs are meant to be broken. I don't play like that. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to be sharing anything that's under NDA. Although, funny enough, I actually don't have a lot of projects that are under NDA. My work is primarily marketing website design, which most of that is public information. So, not a, like, obviously, I have a confidentiality clause in my contracts. I don't want to be sharing any information about clients without their permission. But none of the work that I do is product design work, which is typically under NDA. So I am lucky in that way. Hannah, I'm using Mast right now for a Webflow build. It's a major game changer. I agree. I was lucky enough to have Corey give me a walkthrough of Mast earlier this year, and I just like immediately fell in love with it. It just totally made sense in my mind. We're going with mid beige here. That's a fun color name, super descriptive. And I'm actually going to delete the color variables that come with Mast just so that I'm not getting confused with what they are. So I've got all of my pieces in here. I think that's fine for now, especially for colors. So I'm going to get into styling. Awesome. So let's attach this to the beige, and let's attach the type color to the dark green. And I want all of my content to baseline be in the Son Booch. I'm going to butcher that name terribly. Okay, so that looks fine. Because I have been doing this very, very rapidly, I designed this landing page starting last night, and I am building it right now. So less than a 24-hour turnaround time. Typically what I do in Figma for all of my client builds is that I'll have like a nice tidy style sheet sitting beside the final designs that I can very quickly go through and grab all my H1 through H4s, my paragraph styles, etc. But because I am doing it live, we don't have any of that. So I'm just gonna style this and grab things directly. Perfect. Yeah, I really love watching other people's live streams, but I have never done one myself. And I also have promised other people, hi Hunter, it's so good to see you here. And Matt, is there a Figma style guide or library available with Mast? I don't think that there's a Figma style guide. So the way that I've been thinking about Mast is that it's a system for building. It's not necessarily a template library like you would think of Reloom or something similar like that. So it's like I design from scratch for everything that I have within Webflow. So yeah, it's kind of like a little bit different than a template library. Although I do think that there was someone building like a Mast like copy paste library to see if, sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought here. One of my favorite things that I have bookmarked is the FinSuite pixels to rem conversion table because I never know how large things should be pixels and rems. Dro, funny because I pulled to my friends on IG. A lot of my night design friends want to see what's up. Yeah, I think going live is like a really fun way to interact with people. I mean, maybe my mood will change after I go live with this and it's a little bit of a mess, but that's kind of what work is in general, is just sometimes it's a little bit of a mess, and I wanted to share kind of the process and behind the scenes on what I'm working on. So typically I'm changing all of the like base like size styling that comes with Mast. Although not drastically. Like I think Corey and Max have done a really great job with this of setting something up that's pretty like out of the box great. So what I'm gonna do is just continue styling all of my pieces here. And that is 30. I'm not like super exact all the time with my font styling or sizing rather. Sometimes I get into Webflow and I realize that like things need to be bigger or smaller, especially if you're designing at like a static screen size. And then you actually get into Webflow and you realize, oh, that's like a lot larger or smaller than it should be. Matt, you can put the pixel value times 1.6 right in Webflow and it'll give you the rim value. That's super helpful. I didn't know that. I did know that you could calculate things directly within kind of like the Webflow size fields, but I did not know that. That's a great tip. Perfect. Okay, so I've got, if you missed the beginning of this stream, typically I have a style guide directly in Figma that's like nice and tidy, and I can just very smoothly pull the styles over. I designed this yesterday and I'm building it right now, so I don't have that. So I'm just trying to make sure that I have my H1, my H2, my H3. And I think I really only have 3 heading styles, and that's fine. So I'm going to style my paragraphs, and then I'm going to get out of here and start building the rest of this. Yeah, that's probably fine. Okay, wonderful. So let's get in and style our background colors. I love the way that this is set up in Webflow with Mass, just with like all of the common styling, although I am going to change some of it. Actually, you know what? I'm not, because I don't have any black backgrounds and I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I have white backgrounds, I have blue backgrounds. I'm going to change this to U background blue. There we go. And then I have a mid beige. So I'm going to change this to mid beige. I don't have any music playing because we are winging it right now on the live stream. Balthazar. What was the learning curve of Mass compared to Client First? So I have actually never used Client First. I was really excited when they launched it, primarily because I think that it's super cool that there is a common kind of like style system for Webflow developers, but I couldn't really get my head around the idea of using divs for padding. It just wasn't like how I organize my builds or my mind. And so that like one particular reason was really like why I didn't start using Client First in general. So I was using a style system prior to Mass that was really like the naming conventions were very similar to Client First, but it was kind of my own design. Which it worked really well for a long time, but I was really kind of craving having like a common styling system that I could go into a build and know exactly how it was built. And I was really lucky to work with Corey Moen on a build earlier this year for a client called Finch. He helped me with some pieces of the site that were outside of my skill set, and I was so glad to be able to collaborate with him. And he gave me kind of a tour of Mast of where it was at the time, and it's kind of evolved a couple versions since then. But it was a really great tool to use, and I just continued to use it. I thought that it was a really nice framework for how to build websites. It made sense in my mind as I was building things, especially with utility classes. And I just kind of like continue to do that. So it has been really, really helpful. I find that I spend the most time on setting up styling, and then once I actually get into the build, it is all pretty smooth from there, especially with like rows and columns and things. So what kind of type styling do I need here? I need dark green, and I have red, dark green, and I think that that's it. And beige, we'll do beige too. So red, dark green, and beige. Beautiful. Just checking my messages here. Cool. Perfect. Let's check in on comments. The Walker framework. Yes. Yeah, Nest is pretty cool. I've been really enjoying it. So we've got our primary, which is this red color, and we've got our dark green. Perfect. Because it's also the like default color for all of the type, I needed to just replace it in here. Yeah, Hannah, I think that that's what I really like about Mast as well is like it's a utility framework, so there's nothing like it's not heavy. I think I saw a comment on somewhere, maybe it was Twitter, of folks were talking about how long it took to load the client first style guide, which kind of seems surprising to me because I don't really want to be putting something into my build that's like going to take a long time to load right at the outset. I'd rather start with something that's like quite compact, and then kind of go from there. But FinSuite has some amazing products. I use FinSuite attributes in probably every single build that I do. So definitely not like hating on FinSuite. I really, really love and appreciate everything that they're doing. But it just wasn't the framework for me. And I think that that's okay. And that's part of being a designer and a developer is choosing the way that you want to do things, because you get to decide those. For frameworks and pages like this, do they continually live on the site even after you publish? I think I understand your question to mean, does this style guide live on the site? Is that correct? If so, yes, the style guide will live on the site in perpetuity within the Webflow project. But typically what I'll do is I'll save it as a draft within Webflow. So it will live on this styles page that is a draft that won't publish to the domain ever. But it will kind of like live here in the back end in perpetuity, which I think is really, really helpful. So that works. Okay, let's style our button here. I probably should have just edited the primary variable, but I did not. So we're working. It's fine. Okay, so I really only have one button style on this landing page. Like I said, it was a really fast design, so we are just going for it. I have one button that is this kind of like red get notified, kind of like main button, and that will be my main button style here. So that is the hub felt and it's normal. And I think that this looks a little bit tight on the letter spacing. Nope, that's too big. And that's also too big. That's fine. Okay, so really I only have this one main button style, and then I have this like underlined button style as well. Jonathan Waterworth, when are we discussing your living room? Well, as much as Twitter would love to discuss my living room, I think I'm over it for today. If you missed that, I really take pride in my space. I spend a lot of time at home and I really like where I live. And I just got a new fireplace today. I'm very excited about it because I have not had a fireplace in my house, a working fireplace, since I moved in here. And I posted it. I was so happy to share it. And I got a lot of people quote tweeting it saying that it had less character than an operating room, which is like a really unkind thing to say, I think, about someone's house, especially if you don't live there. But you know, everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and posting online about your life does invite some level of criticism. And I recognize that. So I don't think that I am immune to people on the internet giving their opinion about my life. That's kind of just being on the internet in general. But I do think it's a little bit unkind. So that was our Twitter drama for today. Oh man, thanks so much for being in the chat. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna be building probably for the next hour. The great living room scandal of 2023. Yes. I do think that it does say more about other people when they criticize you, but I was just happy. I was having some warm feet sitting in front of my new fireplace. It was all good. Hi, Ollie. It's great to see you here. Sorry I laughed. Your delivery. Haters gonna hate. Yeah, I do think it's a really nice approach to a living space when you actually, I probably shouldn't delete these. So the way that this is like a very fast build, but I do intend for this website to actually have some longevity to it. So I'm building this landing page right now for Fast Forward Freelance. It's a course I'm launching early next year. It's everything that you need to know about freelancing in the first year. I am also planning on building the course platform itself on Webflow using MemberStack. TBD if I'm actually able to do that or not. This is at this point in time just like an idea. So we'll see how far I actually get with that, but I should probably be cautious while I'm in the build that I may need these like default light buttons and secondary buttons. So I'm not going to fully delete them from the build yet. I'm just going to add the things that I need. Otherwise, I'm going to end up rebuilding this, and I don't want to do that. So I've got my default button, my text only button. That is fine. I'm just going to set up the hover state for this. And I don't really like the internal shadows, so I'm not going to use those. I am going to basically just turn that dark. Yeah, that's fine. I don't need to do anything more than that right now. I can always come back and edit this. Brent, will this live be saved so we can watch it back? You know what? I don't even know how to do that yet. So we'll see once I end this stream if it automatically saves. Yeah, the stream's bitrate. Sorry, I've like never gone live before on YouTube, so we're really just winging it. So I might just delete this if it's like super cringe, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to leave it up. I'm going to try to leave it up, but we will see how this goes. Perfect. Sorry, I'm staring at my other screen because I am just reading all your comments. Thanks for hanging out. We love a good cringe video. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I think that like being cringe is just like a stop on the way to being successful. Like everything that you do at some point in time is going to be cringe before other people think that it's cool. So I don't worry about it too much. Like I remember seeing people online who were getting made fun of for like trying to be influencers or other things. And I just, you know what, if somebody's like putting themselves out there to try something and pursue something that they're interested in, like who am I to hate on that? So I try to take that approach with my own stuff because I am constantly trying new things and sometimes they don't work. Maybe this stream won't work, but I'm out here doing it anyways. So thank you for hanging out while we're doing that. Oops, I didn't actually want that to happen. Perfect. Bish. Great. Okay, so typically I have my style page like done enough. I've got all my heading styles, my paragraphs, all of my kind of like main colors. I'm building this design from Figma. And then I have my buttons and forms. And I actually really like the standard forms that come with Mast. And I designed it with that in mind. So here we are. I just have this like form at the bottom of my page to get notified. And I knew that I wanted this to be a fast build, so I just built it in the style that Mast forms are already built in. I have two homes here. I'm just going to delete the like cover page that comes with the site in general. Okay, I'm going to make this my home page first. Am I blind? Why can't I see that? Oh, it's because I did this last week too. I was like, where did all of my homepage settings go? And it's because I accidentally minimized it. So I'm just going to delete this old homepage. This is just the cover for Mast that comes with it. So I've got a section and I'm going to add, or I've got my page wrapper rather, and I'm going to add in a section. So actually maybe before I do that, I have this kind of layout that I'm working with that's a little bit asymmetrical. And my intention here is that I want fast forward freelance, this kind of like very simple word mark to stay sticky as I scroll down the page. And I want to structure this in a way. So I'm just wondering how I should do that. I did that on a build earlier this year for a site. And I don't think I have access to it anymore. So I'm just gonna go into looking at my clones folder right now. I'm not sharing this with you because it is all of my working files from all of my clients. So we're not going to stream that. But something that I do with all of my projects is that I try to save a copy of them before I send them to a client, just so that I have a record of how I built something, because I find that it can be somewhat difficult to remember sometimes, like how you built something. So I like to keep a copy of a site just so that I have kind of record of it. So what I'm going to do here, so I'm trying to build this asymmetrical layout. I've got fast forward, freelance, sticky on the left-hand side. I want the right-hand side to scroll. So what I'm going to do is I'm inside my page wrapper, I'm going to create two divs. I'm going to call this one page, what do I want to call this? We're going to call it page left. And this is going to be how wide? It's going to take up 2 columns out of 12. So what do I want that to be? About 16.6%. Cool. And I'm also going to create a div. I'm going to call it page right. And I want this to sit right next to my page left. And it's going to fill up the remainder of the space. Okay, perfect. So I've got page left, page right, and a section sitting within here. So let's add this in. I'm actually going to come back to the logo because I'm not sure how I want to build that yet. So that is fine. Yeah, I love that we're getting a glimpse of the course curriculum, by the way. Where can I send you my money? Yeah, I'm super stoked. I think this is going to be a really valuable course. I've tried to be as transparent as possible in pretty much every chapter of how I work, how I build things, how I think about contracts and money and clients. So the intention of Fast Forward Freelance is really that it is a glimpse into everything that I've learned over the last 3 years, which is a lot. So it will be a long course, but I'm hopeful that it's going to be really helpful for folks who are able to take it. So not totally set on pricing yet, but yeah. Interesting that you use default Webflow block for section. I just use divs for everything. Yeah, I think one benefit to using the default section div is that it creates an HTML tag of section on that section. So in that way, I think that it can be kind of nice to have to use the default section. Any date in mind for when the course is going live yet? I've been working on this course for a year. I had originally set out to develop this course in July, and then I had client work that kind of conflicted with what I had originally intended, which happens. That's just like, that's life. It is the way that it is. So really my hope is to get this out kind of like early next year, but really that probably means January or February. And I will I'm hoping to have this page up by the end of the week, this landing page, so that folks can at least sign up to get notified about when it goes live, so that we can communicate and people can get a chance to like see what's happening early on. Cool. Yeah, what's the benefit of using the section tag? Only started with Webflow 4 or 5 months ago. That's okay. Yeah, so a section tag is really helpful for both screen readers, but also robots crawling the site like Google to determine different sections on your website. So they want to know how things are segmented. Heading styles in that way are also very important, so that every page has one H1 tag, which is the most important heading on the site, and then you can delineate content from there with H2s and H3s. And it's really important for kind of like how your site gets crawled, but also how screen readers read your site, because they're going to follow the semantic order of the HTML. And if you've got like 4 H1s on the page and like all of your headings are out of whack, like it can cause issues in that sense as well. Surprise drop sounds like Beyonce. You know what? It might be. It kind of like it's going to get done when it gets done. So I think that that's it. So with this kind of like alternative layout, I'm almost questioning how I'm building this. And I'm not quite sure what I want to do here, because as I'm looking at this, the way that I have this right now is that I've got this page left and page right. But I do also have sections that go the full width of the page, like this white background section. So this stream might just be a lesson in making decisions as you go. So you know what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stop doing that. And I'm going to set this actually to be a section. Delete that. And inside this section, I'm going to add a container. And inside this container, I'm going to add a row. 2. If you're curious about what I'm doing now, I'm using Mast's column system to build a structure for what I want to build here. So within this container, I have a row. Within the row, I have 2 columns. The way that Mast works is that you assign a class of call, and then you assign a secondary class that determines how it sits on different viewports. So call LG2 means that on a large screen desktop, the column is going to span 2 out of 12 columns. Mast is built on a 12-column system. So this is how I'm going to do that here. Yeah, if you could use the Mast columns. Yeah, I think that once I got into this, I was like, oh, this is probably exactly why I should have used divs for this instead. So yeah, I think that actually was the right call. And we're just going to drop that guy in there. Perfect. Cool. Added a secondary class of UP0. Mast functions on secondary or on utility classes rather. So everything on the site you can add a utility class to. So UP0 is utility padding 0, and it has no padding anywhere. Great. Okay, so I've got this section, this container, and in this column, I also want to have, I'm using divs, calling them sections here, but they're not actually sections. I'm just using them to create common spacing. So container, and then within this container, I'm going to add a text link. This is like a very fun way to build, because this is not how I normally build. Normally I spend 6 to 8 weeks in design with clients, and I go through things in a very methodical way. Every week we have deliverables that I give them in a Loom video, and it's pretty rigid. So for me to be building something a little bit willy-nilly, and really just having designed this yesterday and then actually building it today, is a little bit outside of my normal structure and comfort zone. So the way that I'm building right now and making kind of choices and then actually deciding, you know what, that's not how I want to build this, is just kind of how it goes when you are building things on the fly. And I want the max width of this. I'm actually just going to drag this over here so that I can see. Why is that not? Interesting. Okay. Oh, there we go. I was like, why is this measurement unit not doing what I would like it to? And I needed to set it to display block. So we're back on track. Everything's fine. Okay, we've got our fast forward freelance on the left-hand side. We've got our, oops, other pieces here. I'm just gonna adjust my screen size here. Then I'll probably do this a little bit differently as well. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so I've got my heading on the design here. I have a little like bubble for login, which if you missed that, I'm hoping to build the actual course platform directly in Webflow as well. So I'm going to leave that out for now because I don't need that right now. And I'm going to set up my text span. So we're going to call this CC highlight for custom code. And I want this to have a background color of that highlight color. And I think that that's kind of about it for now. I might change how this is styled a little bit, but I am like the name of the game here is MVP. So that's how we're doing this. All right, I've got my wrapper for the other pieces here. Might actually just change the bottom padding here, bottom margin. I'm going to add a secondary class of CC gap left. This isn't a standard mask class, but I use this like pretty much constantly. Essentially what it is I'll set it something to align center. I'll have a gap of 1 rem for columns, and then I can put things together. Maybe there's a different way to do that. I don't know, but I really like doing that. So I continue to do it. Get notified, and then I'm going to add just a text block here. Actually, you know what? I might actually make that an H2 because it is an important piece of text. I'm just going to give it a class of paragraph. Interesting. That is because I did not assign my paragraphs to have the specific headline or typeface that I want. Font, rather. Let's be real with our words. Can you, never mind, paragraph. I'm actually going to create a new class here that is just called paragraph, and I'm going to give it a class of paragraph because the piece of text that I was just trying to create, I have these pre-built classes of like paragraph 1.25 and paragraph 1.5, but I actually just want to be able to label an H2 as a paragraph. So I'm going to build myself a class for that. Normal, I want this to be 1.6, perfect, cool, yeah. That is good. Ollie, I always add you, MR1. Oh yeah, I guess you could do that, but I like my gap left. I really am attached to that, so I'm gonna keep doing that. And I think that's what's nice about Mast in general is that like you don't have to there's no, as far as I understand, there's no like rigid rules on what you can do. It's just like a general framework for how to approach building in Webflow. So let's make that. I didn't actually buy this weight of the font, so we're gonna make it the closest one that I have, which is that. Cool. And I'm gonna give it uText primary. I'm gonna copy this text here. Cool. Awesome. Something that I really always like to do as well is that in the custom code, there's this font smoothing that's included, but I actually like to put that in the on-page custom code instead of the kind of like project custom code, because I like to see those changes reflected while I'm working. So I'm just going to go in and add that. And then everything looks a little bit tighter and it's nice. I really, really like it. Awesome. Catching up on comments here. Sorry if I haven't, if I missed something. Brent, you design desktop wireframe with 1440. How do you set up your layout grid in terms of gutter and margin spacing? So within Figma, it kind of depends. So I've been working on projects right now where I want to have like really narrow margins, just aesthetically, that's what I want it to look like. So in that case, I will do a margin on the grid itself. But in this case, I have just created a 14 column grid and I'm only using the 12 interior columns. So I have one column on either side. Once I get into Webflow, this kind of like doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, like it's fine. I just want to make sure that like I'm working with 12 columns in general. Is kind of like the name of the game here. Perfect. Is the stream quality okay? I've never done this before, so I'm just like curious how this is working out, if the stream is okay to watch or if it's like glitching or cutting out, because we're really just winging it. Gotta bounce. Good luck on the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate that. The only rule Corey lives by is clean up your damn classes. Awesome. Yeah, I think that that's great. Penny, thanks for confirming the stream looks good. I really appreciate that. Awesome. Okay, so we've got a hero section and it looks pretty okay. So let's keep going. So what I'm going to do here is that this does look a little bit complicated and I would like to maybe figure out a different way to do this. But I think what I'm going to do is just continue building in this right-hand column with all of my sections. I don't know that that's the best way to go quite yet, but it is what we're going to do. Just to see how this goes. So what I want to have is actually I want this right column to go all the way to the edge. So I don't actually want this div to have a class of container. Maybe what I can just do is pop, no, I don't like that. Yeah, I need to give some consideration to what I want this to function like. Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's just do that. And I'll give it a width of 95%. That's also not what I want. Okay, I need to give some consideration to how I want this kind of like asymmetrical layout to function, but right now, all I'm solving for is that I want this section to go to the full right-hand side of the page. So I've solved for that and I'm just gonna keep going. Okay, perfect. So we've got U background blue. I'm gonna delete everything in this container. And I'm going to build this new layout. So all that's gonna take up 4 if I can do that correctly. That looks too big. because I'm building this main layout on a 12 column grid, but the interior is actually only 9 columns, I think, if that's right. When I'm building these interior rows and columns, they're going to be slightly different. Like this isn't actually going to take up 2 columns. It's going to take up more because I'm basically basing this on these 9 columns. So it's 2 columns of the interior 9 columns. So we will see how that works. Stream quality is great. Thanks for letting me know. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I've got 1 column here and I'm going to add in an image. And that's going to be, I also always add a class called UIMG static. And I just set that to have a width of 100% because the other kind of like utility class here is UIMG cover, which covers its parent, but sometimes they don't want to have an image within, I guess I could probably just give that a class of like UD block or UW100. If we're doing it this way. I like doing it this way, so I'm going to do it this way. Okay, and then I'm going to add in a rich text block, and I'm going to give this a class of paragraph 1.5, and I'm going to copy this content in here. Perfect. So let's give that a little bit of styling in here. Sometimes it doesn't always copy, especially with line breaks, into a rich text block. Which is fine. So I'm just going to highlight this and bold it. And I also want to style all bolds to be this other weight of the typeface because I've imported them as individual fonts. So it's not automatically going to select them. I wish I could build this fast. I have only started to build this fast in the last year using Mast because everything is navigable by the keyboard, which is very, very helpful. And I love it a lot. I just keep coming back to this layout and thinking, I don't like the way that this is set up right now. Because I've got like this overflow scroll that's happening. I'm going to keep building the main sections because I know that like that is correct. But I just don't know how I want to build this like asymmetrical grid. And I just lost connection to my trackpad because it had 3% before I started the stream. And that's probably what people who have more streaming experience avoid. But I have my dongle right here. We're gonna make it work. What a fun stream to be my first stream. We're just really winging it. Cool. Awesome. So I have the second section kind of like structurally built. Let's keep going. I'm going to give this a class of UMB2. And then I'm going to add a div with UT block. And I'm going to add another rich text. I could do these as individual paragraphs or text blocks, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to set them up like this. And I'm going to give this a class of attribution. And I want all paragraphs inside attribution to have a bottom margin of 0.2 instead of 1 which is totally fine. And then I'm also going to add in a button with CC text only called "and more about Grace." Awesome. Cool. So that's like generally kind of how I want this to look. I've got an image, I've got my text here, and that I think looks good. Okay, we are back to the conundrum of how to structure this in a way that we have this section spanning the full width with the, you know what I might do is just have the fast forward freelance be a fixed item on the page instead of having it sit in its own column and be sticky. Because, like, for all intents and purposes, it is going to be fixed on the page. It doesn't need to have a position of sticky. Um, so I might do that as well. Gosh, live streaming is really just like opening up all of the flaws that I have in this build. It is very much not a smooth process. But I think that's important to like realize as well when you're building things that it doesn't always go the way that you plan the first time that you're building something. And sometimes you have to take a step back and wonder like, is that the best way to do it? Or should I do something else? And that's kind of just part of building. So I might like fully just redo this, but I think for now, what I'm going to do is at least build out this other kind of like curriculum listing section, and then I might hit my hour, and this might be it for today, but we're going to keep going for now. Perfect. Okay, so I've got a new section here, and yeah. Have I utilized Webflow support for aspect ratio yet? I set up a class of U aspect classes in Mass Starter and found it made adding images to my builds a lot quicker. I haven't, but I have a build where I've kind of like should have probably done that. I typically when I'm doing builds that have aspect ratios on images, what I've always kind of done in the past is do the like magic ratio. So let's actually just like show what that looks like. So if I create a div and give it a class of IMG wrap, and I'm going to give it a padding of 65% on the bottom. And then I am going to put inside of it an image with the class UIMG cover. But I have to make sure that UIMG wrap has a class of relative. In that way, this kind of like functions as that aspect ratio with this like magic padding. I think this was something that Ben Parker had posted on the forums like a long, long time ago. But I haven't actually used the new aspect ratio piece that I assume replaces that need. So yeah, it does. Great. That's awesome. Yeah, I will probably be playing around with it soon, but I just haven't yet. I worked on one client build last week, and this is the only other build that I'm working on right now and probably will work on for a few weeks. So it is what it is. Yeah, one less div. I totally agree. That's kind of like mission critical or mission central, I guess, for everything is just like one less div. Like, how can you make this the leanest possible build it can be? And we're already seeing that sometimes I add weird little classes for things like CC attribution because I want to change the paragraph spacing. But like I said, I think development is personal and you can make personal choices in it as well, which is fine. Any advice to have better spacing between sections, elements, and headings, subheadings to avoid clunkiness? Thanks so much for answering all these questions. Yeah, I think that better spacing between sections, elements. I think honestly, this comes down to how the site is designed. When I'm designing, like particularly for sections, I'm really standardizing the space between sections. So things either have like basically what I did before I was on the stream was I created two rectangles that were 100 by 100. And I just grouped them together into this wonky little thing. And I just dragged it around the page. So I want all of my sections in any design to have equal spacing between them. So what that typically looks like is that if it's a new section, I want it to have 200 or whatever that spacing. Yeah, the good old rectangle trick. Yeah, this is like super hi-fi stuff here. But yeah, I basically am just like dragging this around to make sure that all of my spacing is the same. And what that does for me in Webflow is that I can then have kind of standardized spacing in the design. I think it gets really tricky when you inherit a design or you're designing something and you have different padding or spacing between sections, and then you're having to create a lot of like secondary classes. A lot of those come with mass, like you can have UP2 or UPB2 or like things like that. But in general, I try to like keep that in the design. Particularly for spacing between headings when you're getting into blog posts, long, rich text elements, things like that. Oftentimes, the standard spacing that you have under a heading that you're using everywhere else in the site like isn't exactly perfect for a blog post. So perhaps actually what I usually do when I'm styling rich text blog posts, like the rich text element in a blog post, is I'll create a secondary class called like CC blog or like U rich text and then CC blog. And I'll actually change the heading margin top and margin bottom for each of those to make sure that it looks really, really tight on every screen. So, or on every kind of like instance within the blog post. I find I'm oftentimes adding margin on the top of headings within a blog post to really kind of make sure that that styling looks really, really crisp within a blog because it is like a slightly different application than just like normal headings on your site. So hopefully that helps. I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. Awesome. Cool. I think I've been streaming for almost an hour here. So I didn't get very far. I have a hero section and a secondary section, and I went through a lot of different thoughts on how I wanted to structure this. So I think I might actually pause because I am going to make dinner soon, and get on with my evening. But thank you so much for hanging out with me and going through my style setup in Mast and also my thought process on how to build funky layouts. I'm hoping to build the rest of this by the end of the week and hopefully have a page up for folks to submit their emails to get notified when I launch this course. Again, my hope is to launch it early 2024, January or February. The content is mostly all written. I'm super proud of everything that I've compiled so far. It's just filming and building this and getting it out there. So appreciate your patience with that and all the encouragement that you've given me. But thanks so much for hanging out. I didn't expect 10 people to hang out this long, so I really, really appreciate it. And I hope to see you on Twitter or online, other places. And I hope you stay well. All right, we will see you soon. Bye.